Welcome to Chalk Talk, your source for Buckeye Athletic news, updates, and analysis. I'm Maddie Spielman alongside Andrew Todd Smith, and joining us later in the show, we have a senior standout Buckeye athlete we'll be interviewing him, so stay tuned for that. And some breaking news this week, freshman standout D'Angelo Russell was actually just named a consensus first-team All-American this past week.
Yeah, Maddie, we've been saying his name all season. Of course, the basketball team falling to 2-seed Arizona in the third round of the NCAA tournament doesn't mean that D'Angelo Russell didn't have an exemplary season. 19.3 points per game. He led the team in scoring, and people were paying attention.
Yeah,
he earned Big Ten Freshman of the Year honors, as well as you said, the key word, consensus. It means multiple voting bodies thought that he was one of the best point guards in the country. So congratulations to him. Certainly getting things done on the hard court there for the Buckeyes.
Definitely. And another headline, actually, Logan Stieber continues to impress, even with the season over. It was just announced that he is actually the winner of the Hodge Trophy, which in wrestling is the equivalent to the Heisman.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He had cleaned up in terms of individual honors, winning the individual title for the fourth time, and the WCA most outstanding wrestler, as well as tournament most outstanding wrestler. But yeah, Logan Stieber continuing to be honored for his accomplishments as an athlete. It was kind of nice to see some of the trophies we're talking about, not the Hodge because it just got awarded, but Saturday the team was honored by not only fans that were able to converge on St. John Arena, but President Michael Drake and Athletic Director Gene Smith were there to offer some remarks, and Coach Tom Ryan offering some pretty funny anecdotes, talking about the team's journey and some of the relationship he has with some of the wrestlers. So it was a really nice scene there at St. John Arena.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's April now, and with some sports seasons coming to an end, others are actually just beginning. Football is well underway, and Andrew, with the spring game and such coming up within the next couple weeks, is there anything kind of relevant going on with the team right now?
Sure, yeah. As you said, spring practice well underway. Michael Thomas, star wide receiver, will undergo hernia surgery, but Buckeye fans need not fret because he's going to have plenty of time to recuperate and be in top condition for fall practice, hopefully. So we wish him a speedy recovery from that procedure. But of course, we had been talking a little bit in recent weeks about quarterback Braxton Miller, a little bit of controversy beyond whether or not he's going to earn the starting job. With the Instagram photo, is he endorsing Advocare products or not? Is it going to be an NCAA violation? Looking as though things are going to blow over with sort of a slap on the wrist. A letter of education has been the term that's been thrown out there. But Urban Meyer will toss to a quote of him right now from earlier in the week when he addressed the media. We could be seeing some throwbacks to the Florida Gators offense that Urban Meyer ran during his time there of the dual quarterback system. So we'll listen to his remarks now.
You might have a specialty quarterback. That's kind of what we did in 2000. If you're referring back to 06, that was kind of two different skill sets. And, one quarterback drives them down, the other one comes in and goal line quarterback, but it worked. And so, I thought about that a little bit, but I think it's one day at a time right now, and I keep saying that. And that's get Braxton healthy, get JT as many reps as he can, and then Cardell he's played 3 games. So.
Well, as promised, we're now joined by our very special guest, senior captain midfielder Jesse King. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Jesse, you've had a great Buckeye career here. Of course, you're a senior captain. You guys are 8-3 so far this year. Of course, 1-0 in conference, which for the first time in your career or any Ohio State Buckeyes career means that you're 1-0 in the Big Ten. Of course, the inaugural game taking place in University Park, Pennsylvania. You guys came away with a 10-8 win over the Nittany Lions. But Big Ten play, go back to your freshman year. You were competing for ECAC titles your first 3 seasons. Was it ever a thing that you thought would be in existence, Big Ten lacrosse, period, and for it to be something that you would be experiencing personally?
Yeah, I'm just really happy that I actually got to experience. I know that I got friends back home that used to be here, Logan Schuss, who really never got to experience the Big Ten play. But when I was a freshman and sophomore, coming from the west coast of Canada, I didn't really know too much about the Big Ten. And then getting here and seeing how special it is to see all the other programs a part of it, you get a little bit jealous that everyone's, we're part of the Big Ten and kind of stuff like that, talking with other athletes. And then now that when we found out we were going to be part of the Big Ten, and like having friends on the hockey team who are participating in the Big Ten now as well, and seeing kind of the things that they're getting because they're in the Big Ten, it's really special to us, and I think it's just an honor to almost see lacrosse becoming so much bigger, and just as seeing that it's at the Big Ten level now.
You had a very successful 2014. Of course, you were a member of Team Canada, competing in the Federation of International Lacrosse.
Yep.
Gold medal winning team. Congratulations, belatedly. Of course, you beat Team USA, so I'm sure some viewers will be a little upset with you.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, so you were nominated in terms of your collegiate accomplishments, nominated for consideration for the Tewaaraton Trophy. Of course, we just talked about Logan Stieber winning the wrestling Heisman. That's like the lacrosse Heisman.
Yep.
So during your competition, on the roster of Team Canada, you're competing with world-class players, both professional and collegiate. And of course, the Tewaaraton Trophy ends up going for the first time to two recipients, co-recipients, the brothers of the Iroquois national team, Lyle and Miles Thompson. So you competed against them. So what's it like for you to see collegiate players just absolutely dominating on both their collegiate stage and in world-class play?
Yeah, I never had the chance to play against the Thompsons until we played against the Iroquois in Denver, which was really, really special. I know as a kid playing box lacrosse, we played against the Iroquois teams when I was younger, but just seeing like a couple of guys that they come into the Albany pretty highly ranked as players, and then they end up not tying, but both receiving the Tewaaraton award, and just seeing like the amount of things that are coming with that, like I wouldn't say like the fame and the fortune, but like, the spotlight is definitely on them. It's just, it's really special to me to be on a field with not just them, but the other amazing players like you mentioned before.
For guys like you and the Thompson brothers to end up at collegiate programs that maybe aren't historical powerhouses that we had mentioned. So you end up at Ohio State and you have a great career here. They're doing very well at Albany. Do you think that plays into the landscape of lacrosse becoming more prevalent when there's more than just a couple sort of standout elite programs?
Yeah, definitely. Like you talk about the elite programs and you think of the Hopkins, like you said, or the Syracuse and the Maryland. And as a recruit, when you're in high school, you're always like, oh, like I want to get recruited to Hopkins or UNC or Maryland, those hotbeds of lacrosse. But when you have guys who maybe fly under the radar, like the Thompsons might have, or myself, and like you don't get as many offers being from the West Coast, guys like that, and you're able to spread out these players and have them all across the country. So now, like Ohio State, we've become a very successful program in the lacrosse community, and it's growing every single year, and it's great to see the Midwest doing so well.
Definitely. Well, Jesse, first of all, congratulations. You were just recently drafted by the MLL team, the Rochester Rattlers. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, do you mind I know a lot of people don't know, the whole process of that draft, it happens before the season. Would you mind kind of explaining that process and what are your plans for the future? Yeah,
so the season for the MLL doesn't actually start until it's already just starting up when our season is winding down, is about to end. But I really want to play in the MLL. It's something that I've looked forward to, but there's also that I have to consider is what I do every summer, which I go back home and I play in a league called the WLA, which is a semi-pro box lacrosse league where I get to represent a team called the Victoria Shamrocks, and it's a team that I've been dreaming about playing for since I was about 5, 6, 7 years old, watching these amazing players come through Victoria. So what happens is my weekly schedule is going to be pretty bundled up. I'm going to be playing some home games on Friday at Victoria, and then having to fly out to either like a Rochester or a Charlotte on Saturday to play on Sunday in the MLL. And then after that's all done, the MLL season actually ends before the WLA playoffs begin. And then if my team, Victoria Shamrocks, ends up winning the WLA again, then I'll have another opportunity of potentially participating in the Mann Cup, which is like the holy grail of lacrosse, a Stanley Cup of lacrosse for us guys. And then I'm hoping that I'm fortunate enough next year to get drafted into the other indoor league, which is the NLL, the National Lacrosse League, which this may sound really confusing to a lot of you, but lacrosse players were not making as much money as maybe a hockey player, obviously. So we have to play in these different leagues and juggle a profession at the same time. So I'm hoping that next fall, when I'm back here at school finishing up my degree, that I get drafted somewhere to the NLL, and I'm fortunate enough to play in the box lacrosse league, which I would then begin training for in December, which the season goes until, I mean, it's still going on right now, and the MLL and NLL actually cross over at one point. So it's a lot of lacrosse, but if you want to be able to play the sport you love and make it like a decent living and also a profession, then it's just something you kind of have to do.
Now, circling back, collegiate play, the number 2 Notre Dame team that had beaten you guys, that 9-0 defeat in South Bend. Unfortunately for you, your 45-game point streak came to an end. But what does it mean for lacrosse programs to be challenging themselves out of conference and playing some of these top teams? Whereas I feel like sports like football and basketball, you kind of rest on the strength of your in-league games. And from what you were sort of intimating off camera, it's a little different from lacrosse, correct?
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, not until I had the conversation with you, I don't think people realize the difference is, like, there's not as many conferences in lacrosse. There's only about seven conferences, and now with the new rules in the tournament, there's actually 18 teams that make their tournament. So those 7 teams are getting into the NCAA tournament, and then there's still 9, 10, 11 spots that are open for an at-large bid. So the out of conference games are very important, especially for us. We play in a really tough conference this year with the Big Ten and all, like we were talking about before. And now that we're still playing like a Notre Dame, like you said, and we got our win against Denver and our win against Towson. Those are really big wins for out of conference, and it makes our strength of schedule look really, really strong. And it allows us to show that we deserve to be in the NCAA tournament with these out of conference big wins. Like Denver, I think, was number 3 or 5 or something at the time. So it's a lot more relevant for us to play harder teams out of conference compared to maybe a football where the Big Ten's already strong and you're winning in the Big Ten. Ohio State's winning the Big Ten, then they don't need to play other teams that are as strong outside of I mean, I'm sure we'd love to see them go and play like a Texas or an Oregon in the season, but they don't. That's not what they need. Whereas it's something that we need. So.
Well, Jesse, your next game is against a very good team in Johns Hopkins. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. What can we expect from that game? What's your kind of mental state going into that?
Yeah, I mean, every year, you know, the hotbeds of lacrosse, like we've talked about earlier, they get all these recruits that are so highly ranked, and we may not have those rankings out there, but that's just not really the Buckeye way. And you know, Coach Myers, he talks to us all the time, and he talked about them having all of first-team All-Americans where we have never had one at Ohio State. And to us, that means nothing. If anything, that fires us up even more to get the win. You know, especially last year, we lost in, I think, double overtime against those guys in our first game of the season, which could have changed our season completely. And so having them come into our home now and playing in our big stadium, well, I mean, we're going to see how that goes for them.
To your new home in the Horseshoe. Now that Big Ten play is a thing, as we talked about. You guys are going to be taking on the Terrapins of Maryland right before the spring game we were just talking about for football.
Yeah.
So you already referenced it, increasing visibility and allowing people the chance to see what this game's all about. So it's pretty exciting stuff to know that you guys are getting to share the venue and maybe share a little bit of that spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real honor. I mean, it was really awesome to play out of the Jesse Owens, the Snake Pit. There's a lot of history there as well. But now having like an official kind of home, being part of the Big Ten and it being the Shoe, it's just, I mean, it's amazing having such a large place and to call our own home. And having that spring game like we were talking about, I mean, after all of our games so far this year, there's been like 3 or 4 or 5 younger teams that are coming to our games, and you know, we go and say hi to them and we let them know thanks for coming, because without those guys the sport doesn't grow, and we need that kind of thing to happen. And I think that's like I said before, one of the big things that needs to happen is having games like before the spring game. Like we're going up to Michigan at the end of the year and we're going to play them before their spring game, and I think that's one of the reasons we see lacrosse growing so much in the Midwest.
Well, I think you've given us so much insight and feedback. I think that is going to do it for us this week. Best of luck against Johns Hopkins.
Thank you very much.
But certainly, thank you for joining us. And, you know, like I said, trying to elevate our level of awareness. Maddie, if you'd like to take us away.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, everyone, thanks for watching this week. Be sure to follow Chalk Talk on Twitter at Chalk Talk OSU, #CTOSU. On behalf of Jesse King and Andrew Todd Smith, I'm Maddie Spielman, and have a great week.